So, I'm going to paint you a story, my dear loves. And this one's about call it atmosphere. So many years ago, I lived in Chicago. Or no, I didn't. I lived in Michigan, but I loved going to Chicago. I love the city. I love the city of Chicago and the Art Deco buildings. And it's kind of a magical place for me. And I used to just go there for the day. And some of my friends would go there, and we'd go for the weekend, and we'd stay at a nice hotel and just have a good time, all over the city. But one time, a friend of mine came to visit me when I lived in Michigan, and he was a firefighter from Denver, and he'd never been to Chicago. And I said, let's just go for the day. So we did. And we saw all the different sites, went out for lunch, and just had a really good day. And where I lived was only 2 hours away from Chicago. So it was really kind of a nice drive. And so we got there, and I wanted him to see this one particular place, which is a restaurant that's really well known in SNL in the early days of Saturday Night Live. And it was when John Belushi and Jan Aykroyd, and they would be in this restaurant, and it would be um, they would talk about, cheeseburger, Pepsi. Can't even mimic it well enough. But the restaurant is owned by a Greek person, and at least it was at the time. And they used to work in Second City, which was there in Chicago, and so they would go there oftentimes. And so that was part of one of the fun things that they did on SNL at the beginning days. So I wanted him to see this actual restaurant, and it's about 2 floors below the Wrigley Building. And you have to go down from outside, you go down the stairs, and you come out. There's a parking lot, and then there's a door, and you go in, and here's this restaurant. And it's probably been there since, I don't know, the 1930s, maybe 1940s. I can't remember how old it is. But we walked in, and it was about 3, maybe 3 in the afternoon, and the place was empty. And I'd never been there when it was empty. Every time I've been there, it was completely full, and sometimes you had trouble finding a table. But it was empty, and the man that I believe he was the owner, or maybe even the manager, was walking along, and he had a jacket on. It looked like he was about ready to leave. And I said, "Are you still open for business?" He says, "Sure, come on in, sit down anywhere you want." And the place was full of tables that all been cleaned up, and they were all empty. We could have sat at one of the tables. I said, "We'll just sit at the bar. So we're not going to disturb anything you've already mixed up, and we'll just have a drink." And so he said, cool. He says, great. So my friend says, where's the bathroom? So he told him where the bathroom was. And so he went off to the bathroom. And I noticed this man walking around, and it's like an L-shaped bar. And I was here, and the bar went here and went around this direction. So he's just walking around, and he's looking in cabinets, and he's looking looking behind doors and sliding cabinet doors back, and he's looking for something. And I'm like, what is he looking for? And I was just kind of watching him, and it's kind of interesting. And then he pulls out a taper candle like this. It's about this size. And he comes, when my friend comes back from the bathroom, he comes and stands in front of us on the other side of the bar, of course. And he takes it was a big salt shaker. It was about, I don't know, 3-inch salt shaker, pretty good size. Takes the top, unscrews it, puts the candle inside the salt shaker like this, then takes out of his pocket, he takes a lighter, and he lights the candle, and he puts it down in front of me, and he goes, there, call it atmosphere. Burst out laughing. I was like, this is so cool. So he asked us what we wanted to drink, and I got something like a gin and tonic or something like that. And my friend wanted a beer, and he says, well, what kind of beers you have? And he goes, well, in bottles we have, and he named all these different kinds. He says, I'll take, and he named whatever he wanted. He says, do you want that in a glass? And he says, no, I'll just drink it out of the bottle. He goes, well, that's good because all the glasses are dirty. So I burst out laughing again. It was so funny. And he was just wonderful. He was absolutely delightful and so much fun. And I'm sure he did this probably for a lot of people, but I just loved it. So since then, atmosphere is just really important to me. And I light candles for every call that I'm on with you. I light candles when I'm actually creating what I'm doing. If I'm writing a book, or if I'm creating something for my business, I light a candle. I create atmosphere. I want atmosphere. And so up in our kitchen, above the kitchen cabinets, there's all that space between the top of the cabinet and the ceiling. So I have a lot of my paintings like this just perched up there to, so you have all this color up there. And my husband took this strip of lighting, and it's controlled with a little remote that you can just have this real dim lighting that lights up all of these paintings up above. And so you go into the kitchen and you say, turn on the atmosphere. Turn on the atmosphere. So we do that. Oftentimes when we're eating, we'll have a candle in front of us and we light it and call it atmosphere. And so atmosphere is important. It's like the environment in which I live. We have lots of plants. We have lots of art. We have lots of windows where we can see outside and see the mountain views out in the distance. We get to see the sunsets. We get the storms coming through because we're facing west. We have a lot of atmosphere here. I get to watch the birds out in the backyard, the squirrels, the bunnies, all come to eat. And I noticed today there's a robin out there. So we haven't had robins for quite a long time. They've been gone for the winter, but they're back. So atmosphere is important. Find whatever it is in your life that creates atmosphere for you. If it's might be, something, maybe a wonderful dinner that you create, that maybe the way you serve it on a plate is an atmosphere. Maybe you have friends over for dinner, and you might put flowers on the table, or set the table in a way that is atmospheric for the people that you're serving. Maybe you go someplace and go the long way around through country roads, kind of like my husband and I do, to get to certain places. If we can take the time to do there, get the atmosphere of the pine forest, we get the atmosphere of the country roads, we get the atmosphere of the beautiful scenery in the background that we get to see instead of being on the highway among people going at 80, 90 miles an hour. So I love atmosphere. I love, ever since that day, atmosphere is important to me. So call it atmosphere. Call it atmosphere. So, did I mention? I don't think I did. But when we went to leave the restaurant, the man was so kind, and he stood there with a little white towel over his arm, like they would do it in Europe, and he bends over with his other arm behind his back. He bends down to me and he says, "Please come back and see me again sometime." And I said, "Oh, I will happily do so." So little did he know that he created something for me that lit up my life and created decades of atmosphere that continue to expand from that one experience. So I'm leaving that with you today. Please know how much I love you, and may you have uh, lovely atmosphere in your life. May you have loving atmosphere. May you have peaceful atmosphere. May you have an exciting, passionate atmosphere. May whatever it is you do it with atmosphere. Lots of love. See you later. Bye for now.